Hi everyone, today's going to be my first book review, and I'm going to do it on The Wise Man's Fear, but I haven't got the Name of the Wind, which is the first book, in my house at uni, so I can't show you a copy, but it's just as nice as the cover on this one. So the Name of the Wind, it's both by Patrick Rothfuss, and they're both fantasy books. The Name of the Wind's about Kvothe, who is a young, intelligent, young trooper of a band called the Daemaru, who are sort of a travelling party of musicians and actors, and they're employed by a certain lord, and he sends them around. And the first one, The Name of the Wind, is about his journey after a tragic event and what happens to him as a young child and how he makes it in the world that he's in. And he also goes on a quest which is revenge based, and that's all I'll say, just not spoil it. And then it's actually quite similar in terms of style to the second book. It's more of a continuation. I imagine it could be one book, but it'd be huge because this is very big. This is nearly 1,000 pages long. This is the second one. The first one isn't quite as big, but it's around the 600, 700 page mark, maybe even 750 or something like that. I read the first one maybe a year ago, maybe even more than that actually. I read it before I came to uni, so it was actually more like 2 years ago, and I thought it was brilliant, but there was something small missing. But this one was amazing. It was so good. It's one of them books that you are reading and are like wanting to get through and see what happens, but also you don't want it to end because it's so engrossing and so easy to get lost in it. So I'm mainly going to talk about this second book, The Wise Man's Fear. As I said, it's very long and it took me quite a while to read it because I've been reading it through quite a difficult or sort of stressful stage. I'm in my last year at uni, so I haven't been able to read quite as much, but I finished the last third in maybe 4 days. I read maybe 100 pages, 150 pages a day for a few days. So I want to first talk about the writing, because I think that's the best feature of both the books, and I can tell you that it's really unique in fantasy books in that it is amazing writing. The writing's really the highlight of the book. So my voice is very weird today. I haven't woke up feeling amazing, but I'll plow on. So the first thing you notice about the book is the writing. It's very beautiful. It's quite poetic, very romantic in its how he describes everything from the trees to the people that is around him, and it's also very witty. The characters are witty, but they're written by a person who has to come up with this wit, and I don't know how he does it, but sometimes the wit is like, it's so clever and so cunning that you can't imagine one person coming up with it, because you immediately think about the character that's saying whatever it is that's witty. And on the other hand, it's also quite poignant sometimes. Throughout the book, it's quite witty in sort of intense bursts when Kvothe gets into interactions with certain people, but then he'd maybe be on his own, and then Rothfuss will be talking about his thoughts, and sometimes he will say something and it'll really, to me it really hit me right in the chest. I was like, whew. I didn't see that he would be, or I didn't foresee that he would write something like that when I first started reading, but yeah, it's quite intense sometimes. And then I want to talk about the characters also. It's in the first person because it's Kvothe retelling his story to another person. But Kvothe is bright and witty and oftentimes very cunning, especially because a lot of the book is about him getting into trouble and then being cunning and witty and finding his way out of it. And he usually ends up better off than what he was before he got into the trouble. So it's almost like he has to go through these trials and he comes out stronger. But he's also he can be quite arrogant and short-tempered. Sometimes he'll be speaking with someone maybe who he's friends with, and if he's not maybe in the right mood or if he's under stress, then he will snap at them, and he has a very wicked tongue. He doesn't hold back, and knows exactly what to say to cut quite deep. There we go. He's also a bit egotistical in that he hates losing and he hates not being the one that comes out on top, which I think everyone does, but him especially is he will fight until he's fought too much and just made it even worse. In terms of the other characters, most of them all of them are seen through his eyes, so Rothfuss describes the characters as if he's Kvothe, so it's through the lens of Kvothe, who maybe alters how the readers see the characters, but a lot of the times you don't get as much as what we'd like in terms of description and things like that about the characters, but you get a lot of insight into Kvothe's interaction with them and how he sees them, how much he likes them, how much he dislikes them. He has strong opinions about everyone that he meets, and he seems to be very good at reading into people. Sometimes he might seem a bit presumptuous, but sometimes he's dead right about certain things that he thinks about people. He has a very good judge of first impression about a person. Sometimes he's proved wrong, and those are often some of the best bits in the book, when someone proves him wrong and defies his assumption about their character. So I thought I'd talk about a couple of the relationships that are in the book. So there's two that come to mind immediately to me, and that's between Kvothe and a little girl called Auri, and they have a very charming relationship, and she brings out his soft side, and she's a bit weird, and she's very different, but I think he sees her as vulnerable, so he behaves differently to her than he does anyone in the book, and their scenes are too short in my opinion. It's really cool to read about them too. And then you have Kvothe and Devi, and their relationship is completely different to Kvothe and Auri's. Devi's a girl. Auri and Devi are both girls, and Auri's very soft and vulnerable, whereas Devi is dangerous and intimidating and not afraid to be maybe passive aggressive or even just straightforward aggressive, but she's also funny and witty, and I think the book wouldn't be the same without her, even though she plays a small part. The role that she plays in Kvothe's life influences all of his actions, because she loans him money, which is really, you'll find out at the end of the book, that's the money isn't as important to her as it is to Kvothe. You find out in the end a bit more about Devi's motivations, which is fascinating. But overall the characters are seen through Kvothe's eyes, so that maybe changes it a bit, and sometimes they might seem to lack depth, but overall I really enjoy reading about how Kvothe sees people and how he judges them and how he adjusts his behaviour around certain people. Now the story slash plot is a bit less prominent in these books. It's not a plot driven book. But my favourite plot was the Alvaron and Kvothe situation where, without spoiling it too much, Kvothe goes, or ends up, serving a guy called Alvaron. I won't tell you much more about that, but Kvothe ends up helping him in quite big ways, some seriously big ways, and gets Alvaron out of a lot of trouble and does a lot of things for him. And this is one of the situations where Kvothe often oversets the mark with a certain person and then comes out at the very end of it stronger. That is in the last quarter of the book though, maybe the last third of the book. It's not as it starts, so there's a lot that you read before that part, but all the stuff before that bit is similar to the first book. It's the last half of the book which really was different to the first one, I thought. Not majorly, but in subtle ways that really had a big effect. So I found that in terms of plot, it was better to forget about what was going to happen in the next chapter or the next 10 chapters, because the chapters aren't really amazingly long. There's over 100 chapters in the book, so I found it better to immerse yourself in the very page that you were reading and pay attention to all the small details. Not agonise over them, but make sure that you really understand what each page is about, because that's where the treasure lies in this book, I think. It's not in finishing it, it's in reading it, and it helps because it's very long. So yeah, try and enjoy the moment with this book, because when it ends, well, you have to read something else, and it's one of them books which is very highly ranked against other books, so yeah, I do want it to end. But overall the book is mainly about Kvothe's random adventures, and well, they're not random, but they seem random, like why is he doing, what's going on now? I thought he was pursuing his life at the university, now he's going off to this other place, which is good because there's a lot of places on the map at the start of the book which are unexplored. I quite like the map. Let's give you a little look at the map. I think that's great. I think that's a really cool map. It's well drawn, and major landmarks aren't right in the crease of the book, right down the middle. I hate it when there's a map and there's a city name or a place and you can't see it because it's so small and it's in the crease of the book. So well done, Gollancz, for sorting that out. So overall, I don't think giving books like 5 stars or 10 stars or whatever is particularly useful, but in this instance it's 10 out of 10 for me, 5 stars out of 5 stars out of 5 for me. I give it that because I got lost in it, and if I get lost in a book then I forget about maybe all the small issues with it, and I'll remember this one for a long time. I think we just need the third one now. How long has it been? This one was published in 2011, 2012. It's 2017 and the last one's not out, but there's plenty to read from now until the next one's published. And I think it's called The Great Stone Doors or something like that. I gave it a little look on Goodreads and it didn't say when it was coming out, but it's going to be one of them Game of Thrones situations where the next book takes forever and everyone's waiting, and then when it comes everyone loves it, and I think it's going to be great if he managed to really finish off the story. Hopefully, because the story is told by Kvothe at a later date to a person who's writing it down about his past and his journey, I hope there's more scenes, or I hope he manages to get the story to the point where the present and the past come to meet. I hope there's more scenes about Kvothe in the inn and what's going on there, because there's some action going on in the present day in the book, which I really liked. Sort of maybe more action orientated scenes in there. In the first book I remember right at the start there's some action that isn't about Kvothe's past, it's about the present day as an innkeeper. And then in the second book there's intermissions where often some intense interactions going on, so hopefully we'll see more of that. But that's going to be it. My voice feeling a bit weak, probably sound a bit weird, but yeah, thanks for watching.